Today we're going to take a look at doing a mini mash or a partial mash. And this is in essence an extra step added to the extract brewer's process where he actually takes some grain and goes through a mashing process much as you would do in an all-grain brewery setup. What I'm going to show and talk about today though are some slight little changes or things to be aware of in this process that will allow you to make a much better beer. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's the kit. I got this from a good friend down in Austin, Texas. And it's very typical of your mini mash type of setup. We have a couple pounds of grain, some dried malt extract, hops, some sugar, and we're going to go ahead and use the kettle behind it to do the initial process. But then I'm going to go ahead and move us on over to my standard brewing setup here. We'll actually do the boil and the cool down and transfer into the fermenter. So let's go ahead and get started. And again, I'm not going to go through each and every step because you can see that countless times on other videos. I want to really emphasize the key points as I go through my process. So here we go with the first step. Prepare the water. Let's talk about that for a second. The single largest ingredient in our beer is the water. So it makes sense that we want to start with the best possible water. What I suggest you looking into is putting together a simple water filter out of elements that you can buy at any home improvement store, Home Depot or Lowe's, places like that, and simply have something that's going to help remove the chlorine taste, the chlorides, and other off flavors from even entering your pot to begin with. So again, instead of just taking some water straight out of the tap, if you can, I strongly encourage the use of a water filter. Okay, we are almost done with the mashing process here, and I did want to make one extra point. The final stage of this is going to be to essentially rinse the grains with hot water. And you can think of this sort of like making tea, if you will. We're going to go ahead and remove the grain bag and then pour over it water that's 170 degrees. The point I want to make here is you don't want to go any hotter with the water. You don't want to squeeze your bag. You don't want to pour way too much water across it thinking that you're going to extract all this wonderful sugar from your grain, because what you're going to wind up doing is extracting tannins and other undesirables from the spent grain into your boil kettle. So again, when it comes time to rinse your grain, go ahead, use 170 degree water. It's common to use about 1 quart per couple pounds. That's sort of a loose guideline. But again, you're just trying to rinse out the already suspended sugars, but not force out the tannins and other undesirable attributes of the spent grain. So be a little careful with that. The warm water's done the work here. All you're going to do is a final rinse and we'll be ready to boil. Okay, let's review where we are now. We went ahead and prepared the water. We went ahead and added our grain for the partial mash. We're at the point here where we're going to add our extract and begin the boil. Now here's another area where I'm going to suggest a different step that's going to make a big improvement to your beer. See, normally it's encouraged to add your extract, do your boil. Once everything's cooled, come back in and add cold water to bring your volume up to the desired level. Well, think about this. We've gone through all the trouble to prepare a beautiful wort that we're going to boil and hop. And then at the last step, we're going to add in tap water. This is the kind of thing that can really make a big difference. Think about your tap water. It has a lot of chlorine in it, a lot of off flavors, chances are. And if you're going to do that as a final step, you're going to take this beautiful wort and, for lack of a better word, pollute it with your tap water. So I'm suggesting, and what I'm going to do here, is add the water right now to bring my full volume up to where I want it to be. I'm going to shoot for about 5.5 gallons. Over the course of the boil, the evaporation will bring that down to 5 gallons. So here we are with the boil. Well in our way. I've already added the hop to this. It's a single bittering hop addition. It's all this recipe requires. So just a matter now of letting it do its work over the 60-minute time frame that we'll be having this boil take place. Again, this is a full 5.5 gallons to yield 5 gallons after we're all done. Okay, here we are in the final process. I'm cooling the beer down. Got a little whirlpool going on in the kettle. You can see that up there. Coming down through the pump, across that filter there to keep any of the pelt hop from going to the chiller, back up to the kettle. While I'm doing that, I'm monitoring the temperature. And once I see it down around 70 degrees, maybe a little lower, I'll go ahead and pull the conical fermenter over and start transferring into it. I've taken all my samples so I can measure the gravities, and we'll see what we get. Well, the brew day's over. I have everything cleaned up, and I thought I'd just wrap up with the key points of what I wanted to make on this video. It's interesting where really all of the topics are centered around the water. And I guess my point around this would be that there's a lot that can go wrong when you brew. But if you do steps to take care of the easy things, you'll be on the path for improving your brewing process and ultimately your final product, the beer. So again, water filter or best possible water available. Careful when you sparge, don't overdo it. When you boil, if at all possible, boil the full 5 gallons. If you haven't bought a kettle yet, this suggests that you may want to buy one large enough to support that. And if you do need to boil in a smaller size, likely because your kettle is too small, go ahead and take the steps to pre-boil the water that you're going to add. To help justify in your own mind why this is beneficial, go ahead and take a little sample of water directly out of your tap and taste it versus water that you've already pre-boiled and see what that tastes like. And I think you'll see why it's important to go ahead and do this pre-boiling of the water addition. So that's it for this one. I'll talk about some other things as time goes by. But again, I just wanted to highlight some of the little things you can do in the basic process to improve your brewing experience.